welcome to the Themidnightburn. You'll definitely want to stick around for this episode, for sure. Please like and share the videos so I'll know to keep them coming. Also, scroll on over to my YouTube channel. Some stuff is too raw for TikTok. This is the conclusion to the murder of Tina Andrews from McComb, Mississippi. This video is going to be a little different this time. Real testimonies with real documented evidence. This one is going to blow you away. The female you'll hear in this one is someone else, obviously. However, the testimony is 100% real. The trial that still haunts McComb to this very day. Let's look through the eyes of someone who knows better than anyone else. Let's dive in. Barefoot Through the Darkness. The trial for the murder of Tina Andrews. Picture this. August of 1969. The air is thick with humidity and secrets. A 12-year-old girl named Billie Jo Lambert sits in a witness chair, her voice trembling not with fear, but with the weight of truth.
I saw him that night.
She begins, her eyes wide with the memory.
He was there wearing his uniform, but he wasn't there to protect us.
She's about to tell a story that would expose the rot beneath the badge, the predator hiding behind authority's shield. But this isn't just about Tina Andrews' murder. This is about what happened when that truth collided with a justice system determined to protect its own.
We was at the Tiger's Den, on that corner where Main Street meets the railroad tracks.
Billie Jo Lambert, just 12 years old, walked there with her sister Norma on what should have been an ordinary August evening. But fate had other plans written in blood and gunpowder. Billie Jo later testified,
I found Tina Andrews and another girl in an argument about a boy.
her words echoing through that courthouse like stones dropped in still water. She continued,
To keep them from getting in a fight, I told Tina to go outside and walk around with me.
3 girls sitting on a curb. 3 girls whose lives would be forever altered by the headlights that approached them that night. A 4-door automobile pulled up and those 2 men offered them a ride. Billie Jo testified,
Tina knew the man on the right side of the car to be a policeman, so we got in because they offered to take us home.
But Officer Ted Fleming had different plans brewing in his twisted mind. Richard McIntosh gripped that steering wheel like he owned the night itself. Fleming sat shotgun, already planting the seeds of what was to come. The 3rd girl was dropped off at the corner by Plantation Chicken, her footsteps fading into safety while Tina and Billie Jo rode deeper into darkness. Billie Jo's testimony revealed that they went out on Delaware Avenue but did not stop to let Tina off.
When we asked why didn't he stop, they said they needed gas.
But lie by lie, station by station, they passed every opportunity for fuel, every chance for mercy. If people don't believe we'll take young girls parking, you can tell them we did, Fleming said as he turned his head toward the back seat. The car crossed the highway, wheels rolling over cattle gaps and onto gravel roads that led to oil well territory. Isolated, forgotten, perfect for unspeakable acts.
He slowed down. Then he started to back up. Then we came to a complete stop.
2 girls, 2 doors, 2 different fates. Billie Jo testified,
I was ahead because my door was on the right side and I ran straight for the road. Tina got out through the left door. She had to run around the front of the car to get to the road because of the way he parked. But McIntosh was faster, stronger. I heard McIntosh catch Tina and she cursed him. She said, You son of a bitch. Then I heard him say, Nobody calls me a bitch and gets away with it. I then saw him hit her in the face with his fist. Then she fell.
That punch, that moment of violence, the last thing Billie Jo Lambert would ever witness of her friend Tina Andrews alive. Fleming stood by the car like a sentinel of evil, while McIntosh's rage exploded into brutality. And then, Silence. No gunshots heard, no screams that carried, just a 12-year-old girl running barefoot through the Mississippi night, her feet bleeding, her ankle injured, her soul scarred forever.
I didn't look back after that, I just kept running.
She didn't know where she was going.
I had to get away.
Billie Jo stumbled home to 310 North Cherry Street in East McComb, her family watching The Late Show when terror walked through their front door. Upset and extremely tired, her sister would later testify, describing a child who had witnessed evil incarnate. The conspiracy of silence had begun, and a 12-year-old girl found herself carrying the weight of murder alone. That very night, as Billie Jo lay sleepless and haunted, she heard sounds outside her window. Her brother-in-law investigated and found a lawn chair positioned beneath her bedroom window. McIntosh wasn't done with her yet. Days turned into weeks, and Richard McIntosh began his psychological campaign of terror. A shocking admission by McIntosh as he was on the stand was that in the winter of 1970, he received a phone call from a person who said her name was Billie Jo Lambert, inviting him to her house. Take in mind he's stating this happened after Tina's murder. McIntosh drove over to Cherry Street in McComb and said he sat outside until Lambert came and got in the car with him. He testified they talked a few minutes until an on-duty officer pulled in behind him and stated he got a report of a suspicious vehicle. McIntosh stated Billie Jo saw the car coming and ran away before she could be seen by the police to validate his claim. Was his claim true, or was he simply stalking her? Billie Jo testified.
He started coming over to my house trying to get me to go riding with him. He would drive by my house back and forth. Sometimes he would park and sit. One time I was outside when he drove by, he was drinking beer. Then he tried to pull me in the car with him.
Here was a man who had just committed murder, stalking the only witness, trying to lure her into his web of violence. The predator's pattern was becoming clear. This wasn't McIntosh's first dance with young girls in darkness. August 13th, 1969. Tina Andrews drew her last breath. August 17th, 1969. Hurricane Camille unleashed her fury across Mississippi. August 23, 1969. Tina's remains were discovered under a couch, the elements having accelerated decomposition in that hellish heat and rain. The sight wasn't pretty to say the least. Maggots were sent off for what forensic test they had back then to determine how long she had been there. She was only identified by the shorts and blouse she had on. But the most damning evidence survived the storm. A single bullet lodged in behind Tina's sinus cavity. The entry wound was from the back of the head, but it wasn't just any bullet. It was a round from a Webley .38, a British sidearm, rare as honesty in McComb that year. You'll see why this determination was critical later. The FBI confirmed it. There was just one problem for the prosecution. The gun. Who owned that particular .38? When Billie Jo Lambert finally took that witness stand, the defense attorney William Statham began his character assassination with surgical precision. Here was a child, only 12 years old when the murder occurred, being grilled about her sexual history, her pregnancy, her credibility. She was not married, but she was the mother of a 6-week-old baby. The testimony revealed, as if bearing a child somehow invalidated her witness to murder. The defense produced George Irby Phelps from the McComb donut shop to try and discredit her timeline of when Fleming and McIntosh would have picked them up.
I remember when they picked us up. I was going to a dance at the courtyard on August 15th. All of this happened just prior to that.
Billie Jo testified.
I remember without a doubt. I was working at the donut shop. Until George insisted that I work all night the night of the dance. I quit because of that.
Records showed Billie Jo had only worked 3 days in July 1969, not during August as she claimed. Did George falsify her time because she wouldn't give in to his request? Was the defense just trying to find absolutely anything to discredit her? No matter how small. Small inconsistencies in a child's memory became weapons to destroy truth itself. What's up with these men throwing themselves on a child? But the most revealing moment came when city records showed McIntosh wasn't even officially hired as a police officer until March 10, 1970. Months after the murder, yet there he was that August night, acting with police authority, using his badge as bait for innocent girls. He would do frequent rides with law enforcement, if you will. I mean, if you're innocent, why would he lie about anything, right? This wasn't McIntosh's first rodeo with young girls in darkness. Around 1968 to 69, he had taken another teenage girl from South Magnolia Street in East McComb to Baton Rouge for 2 weeks, essentially holding her captive, refusing to bring her home while his friends came over to party with her. The pattern was clear: isolation, intimidation, violation. Tina Andrews wasn't his first victim. She was just the one who fought back, the one who called him a son of a bitch and paid for her defiance with her life. Remember the missing gun that would have shot the bullet that killed Tina? The Webley .38 tells its own story of guilt and cover-up. A previous gun owner from Baton Rouge of a gun to the one believed used in Tina's murder testified under oath that he had sold the rare British sidearm to McIntosh prior to the murder. But by trial time, that smoking gun had vanished like morning mist. McIntosh basically said he was making it up. How many Webley .38s were floating around McComb, Mississippi in 1969? How convenient that the one piece of evidence that could definitively prove McIntosh's guilt simply disappeared into the ether. As Billy Joe Lambert sat in that witness chair pointing directly at Richard McIntosh as the man who drove the car that night, the defense painted her as an unreliable child with a checkered past. They attacked her timeline, her memory, her very credibility. The defense asked Lambert if the man she's pointing to looks the same as what she remembered.
He's a little older. His hair is shorter and his clothes is a little bit different.
When Billy Joe Lambert was asked to identify McIntosh, showing the kind of honest observation that rings with truth. With a packed McComb, Mississippi courtroom inside and out, glaring at her, police and deputies lining the walls shoulder to shoulder, staring at her with only God knows what thoughts, she raised her trembling hands to barely make a fist to point and pointed straight directly at Richard McIntosh as one half of the killers of Tina Andrews. When asked if she was afraid of McIntosh, her response was chilling in its simplicity.
I was not afraid of him then, and I am not afraid of him now.
Here was a child who had stared into the face of evil and refused to blink. The defense took it even further. After pointing to her friend's killer as the one of the two men who picked them up, they ask, "How could you possibly know who it is?" referring to Tina Andrews' body. The defense, with their tobacco in their lip and crossed-eyed, stupidly asked Billy Joe, "How do you know the identity of the body underneath that couch in that oil field?" As if witnessing a murder wasn't sufficient grounds for identification. The message was clear. Don't ask questions, don't make waves, don't challenge the system that protects its own.
I felt I might stop having nightmares if I could talk to someone about it.
Billy Joe explained when asked why she finally came forward. Tina's own sister, who moved to Baker, Louisiana before the murder occurred, was asked why didn't the family notify authorities earlier about the disappearance of Tina. She replied, "I've lived here before and I see why nobody told the police anything. You can't trust the police in McComb, Mississippi." But by then, the cover-up was complete. The gun was gone. The witnesses were intimidated. The system had circled its wagons around one of its own, an innocent little girl. And just 1 week after the trial, the picture of Tina Andrews that was placed in the center of her headstone had been vandalized and broken, was found shattered by her mother. Richard McIntosh may have escaped earthly justice, but the truth has a way of surviving even the most elaborate cover-ups. Every detail of Billy Joe Lambert's testimony rings with the authenticity of lived trauma, the specificity of genuine memory. The cattle gaps, the oil wells, the barefoot escape, the stalking afterward, the lawn chair under her window. These aren't the fabrications of a lying child. They're the precise recollections of a survivor. In the end, Billie Joe Lambert did something remarkable. She spoke truth to power when truth was dangerous, when silence was safer, when a 12-year-old girl's word carried less weight than a badge and a uniform. She couldn't save Tina Andrews. No one could bring back that vibrant young life cut short by a predator's bullet. But she could ensure that the truth would outlive the cover-up, that someone would remember not just how Tina died, but who killed her, and why. So the next time you hear someone say the system always works, remember Billie Joe Lambert sitting in that witness chair, pointing at Richard McIntosh, speaking truth to a courtroom that didn't want to hear it. Billie Joe Lambert didn't fear the pathetic man McIntosh was. She feared the power and numbers against her, a courtroom that wanted her with the same ending as Tina Andrews. Remember Tina Andrews, who fought back against her killer with the only weapon she had, her voice calling him what he was, a son of a bitch. And remember that sometimes justice isn't found in verdicts or sentences.
Sometimes it's found in the courage of a 12-year-old girl who refused to let murder hide behind a badge.
In this world of shadows and secrets, you never know when the dice might roll your way. Until next time, catch the dice, they rolling